For 50 years, the European Union and India, the two biggest democracies in the world, have been partners in many diverse fields such as political cooperation and security, trade and investment, research and innovation, sustainable development and higher education. From the 70s, the European Union has supported several landmark initiatives in India, like Operation Flood, which helped India to become a milk surplus nation and brought economic and social benefits to the landless poor in the country. Under the assistance, European supplies of milk powder and butter oil were sold to set up cooperatives and dairies.
So the funding went into organizing farmers into village cooperatives, the processing plants that were set up, both rural dairies and for city dairies, the input machinery that was required to increase productivity, the bull mother farms, the semen production, cattle feed plants. So all this was funded out of the funds raised.
The European Union's aid also proved vital for eradicating rinderpest, a deadly disease plaguing cattle in India.
Due to European Union support, Indian government got technology in the form of ELISA. Indian government also got equipment, resources, vehicles, and also expertise, expert scientists from Europe who provided critical inputs that were required to have an extensive control program launched countrywide.
The cooperation has spanned almost all important areas like environment, education, health, livelihood, agriculture, and water supply. Restoring water rights to disadvantaged communities and women has been a feature of several projects across the country.
अब लड़ाई में चाहते हैं कि जब तक हमें पानी पूरा नहीं मिलेगा, हम लोगों के लिए सुविधा नहीं मिलेगी, जब तक हम पीछे नहीं हटेंगे, हम अपनी लड़ाई जारी रखेंगे। जब तक नहीं मिलेगा तब लड़ते ही रहेंगे।
आज यूरोपियन यूनियन के सहयोग से हमें बुंदेलखंड में वो सपना पूरा होता दिखाई दे रहा है कि वो वंचित समुदाय, खासतौर से महिलाएं, अपने अधिकारों तक पहुंचेंगी और उनको हासिल करेंगी, जिससे उनकी जिंदगी में बदलाव परिलक्षित होगा।
So, after 50 years, the important relationship between the EU and India now stands on a new footing. It has evolved into a strategic partnership, which is also set to take on the challenges of the new millennium.
Contemporary EU-India relations are focused not so much on traditional development assistance, but much more on partnering in areas for the future, in science and technology, in the environment, in responding to climate change, renewable energies, questions relating to the promotion of business contacts between Europe and India. These are the issues which will mark the relationship over the next couple of decades and will allow it to mature in accordance with the way that the world is changing and the way that each of us is changing.
With India emerging strongly since the 90s as a growing economic power, EU-India cooperation has focused on strategic issues like peace and security, energy, trade and investment, climate change, skill development and research. Research and innovation cooperation is growing rapidly, and under the 7th Framework Programme, the scientific study of water resources and their conservation, biomass and bio-waste, solar energy and food and nutrition have been taken up. The Saaf Pani or Clean Water Project is one such program with 10 partners from India and 10 from the EU. They are creating a model for recharging groundwater.
If everybody does this effectively, the whole country will get benefited because 80% of our rural population depend on using groundwater.
Higher education is also a major priority in the new strategic partnership. Through the Erasmus Mundus program, students from India are awarded scholarships to pursue higher studies in at least 2 European universities. Also, the EU study centers in many Indian universities have enabled students to learn about Europe in India.
Europe, as we know, is implicated in all that we do, whether it's in the knowledge systems that we have or in the concepts that we think with. It's also had a historical presence in our own past, as we know well, in the language that we speak.
Many of the EU's programs are today focused on vocational training. A skill development program was launched in cooperation with the Government of India in 2012. Experts from both sides are working together to design the courses. To address the issue of climate change, the EU and its member states have committed over 3 billion euros to sustainable development in India. The recent High Noon project jointly studied the impact of retreating glaciers on climate and downstream water resources in the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Projects are also underway to promote clean technologies. In fact, clean technologies are the main focus of business-to-business contacts.
It is very, very broad. It is the future. There's a lot of focus not only at political level but also at business level and research level of how do we do things sustainably. Every business has to think how can we do things sustainably. Every city has its challenges in clean tech space, whether it's transport, whether it's energy, whether it's infrastructure in terms of sewage, water supply, waste management and so forth.
The EU is the main trading partner of India. The overall trade between the two has remained balanced, touching almost 100 billion euros in goods and services. There is investment in both directions.
And of late we have seen European companies playing a strategic role in meeting India's defense needs. So altogether, the Europeans have been playing a more active role in terms of supplying goods and services to India. At the same time, the Indian companies, Indian MNCs have made significant investments back in Europe. Today, the investment stands at around 7 billion euros by Indian companies in Europe.
Collaborations in core areas like technology, defense, infrastructure, IT and services can help double trade between the two. Both sides are now working on a free trade agreement which will improve access to each other's markets. Promoting trade and investment is part of the overall political dialogue, which takes place at the highest level through annual summits. This platform has been created to reinforce the commitment to common values, values which truly bind the people together.
I think that the challenges ahead, be it in cross-cutting global issues like climate change or migration challenges or combating terrorism, combating extremism, these are issues which we don't really have a guidebook from the past to help us on. And therefore we are creating the future as we go along, and I believe very strongly that Europe and India working together can help shape the way that the world reacts, the way that the world responds to these very difficult challenges.
The common values of democracy, the rule of law, and a respect for the rights of other states will shape the EU-India relationship for the next 50 years as well, taking the 1.7 billion people in this strategic partnership towards true progress in the future.